thanks for choosing to download this Late Night Linux Family podcast. We're only able to do this because of the people who support us. None of our shows are paywalled, but our Patreon supporters can get most episodes early and never hear any ads. Learn more at latenightlinux.com/support or support us by telling a friend or colleague about everything we do. Hello and welcome to episode 386 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 18th of May 2026. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
And Olivetti PCS.
And Andy.
Hello.
Yeah, we've got no Will and Graham today. They're on a fact-finding mission to, somewhere. But Andy, you're joining us. People will know you from Linux Dev Time, so thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And also your great videos about Rust.
Thanks, man.
And maybe by the end of this, he'll have taught me how to upgrade my Rust packages that I can't figure out how to fix.
Just cargo upgrade, it'll be fine.
I've tried all of the cargos. Nothing works.
Before we get going, just to thank you to everyone who sent us feedback about the AI coverage thing, whether we should cover AI news and everything. We've got quite a range of opinions, I think, and we'll definitely keep it all in mind. Let's start with some good news then. LVFS sponsorship announcement. So this is the Linux vendor firmware service, what I know as FWAPD, effectively. And Husey has posted about how Lenovo and Dell have agreed to be premier sponsors, which is $100,000 a year, US, which is excellent news, because this is something that people don't think too much about, but it is very important.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Dell falls well outside the spectrum for that, and my motherboard in my workstation is an Asus one that also falls outside of that. So I've never really had to use it, bar, I think, like a mouse driver. But yeah, it would be awesome to have it on everything.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant to have people stepping up to contribute. But I think the real good news behind this is that they wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't worth their while. You know, they see having their stuff work really well with Linux as being good for their business, and they're paying for it. It's fantastic.
Well, Husey says they had 145 million firmware updates, which is disturbing.
Yeah, across millions of devices. I wonder how many of them is just my shitty old ThinkPads.
I'd say it's a good 20% at least.
Just serving the stack.
Skewing those numbers.
All right, something that's been long overdue, Phelim. Sovereign Tech Fund invests over 1 million euros in KDE software development.
Not that we needed their money. We did quite fine with the 70% of all users who support it anyway, but still, yeah, we'll take it. Sounds very nice.
And they say the investment will be used to strengthen the structural reliability and security of KDE's core infrastructure, including Plasma, obviously, KDE Linux, and the frameworks underlying its communication services. So Plasma just seems obvious because that's, you know, the flagship desktop. But KDE Linux, which we've talked about a bit, that's the immutable Arch-based distro, which is kind of similar to SteamOS. Maybe that's going to get some serious work done on it now.
These are all kind of the things that KDE is doing right now anyway, so I think it's good that they get a big injection like this. Maybe it'll allow them to hire more developers full-time on them. And, you know, I guess it takes money to run these services anyway. I think they were doing quite well financially, ticking over the way they were doing. I hope this doesn't kind of ruin things for them in the fact that, you know, you get a big injection like this. Does it mean that you maybe bite off too much than you can chew and then make a right mess of it? But hopefully they'll be wise with their spending. And yeah, again, hopefully it can really inject some good quality stuff into what's there right now.
Yeah, there is a potential danger with becoming just a bit kind of crazed by the amount of money that you've been given and then overreaching. But I would say that like quite a few of these European initiatives, and I think Sovereign Tech Fund is among them, seem to be a slightly longer term thinkers than just handing out vast amounts and then not supporting projects later. I'm not saying they're definitely going to contribute more, but hopefully they'll be fairly consistent in the way they operate. But also it sounds like they're going to invest it in infrastructure, which might be stuff that can pay off longer term rather than, like, if you employ a developer on a grant like this and it doesn't come in the next year, then it becomes really difficult. So I don't know quite what they're going to do with it, but hopefully they're thinking and understanding, and also because it's not their entire source of revenue, hopefully it'll be more sustainable than if it was just some tiny project.
Yeah, and if we see Alish walking around a golden top hat, we'll know where a vast chunk of it went.
We'll link to a piece on the Register, and the headline is KDE bags 1.3 million euros as Europe realises it might need an OS of its own. And the kind of take here is that this might be a little bit about the KDE Linux thing and how that might end up being a good operating system for digital sovereignty. What did we decide digital sovereignty should be called?
Damn, yeah, I've forgotten. We should have written that one down.
We should have written it down, yeah. But we decided that sovereignty isn't a great word. But I said that that is the word for it. So what can you do?
It is the word for it.
Was it digital independence? Was that the word we used, maybe?
Something like that, anyway. But yeah, I mean, what do you think? KDE Linux could be the answer to some problems, maybe?
I bet Seuss is boiling right now. Hi, Adam. But yeah, it's it's one of those things. I think we kind of half said it the last time. If you don't own your tools, you are in trouble. And if you only can have an OS by 2 American companies and you're not an American, nothing against them, as I say, like always, but if their government is acting mad and you're on the receiving end of it, then, you know, you should be able to stand on your own 2 feet for this stuff. And I think, you know, that's better. If every country had their own OS, maybe that would be a good thing. I doubt it would be, but yeah.
But yeah, people are taking this seriously for the first time ever. You know, like the French government are genuinely talking about using a version of Linux that they have some control over for all of their staff. And, as you say, it's how it should be. People should be able to control the technology that they're using.
And if it's all open source and open standards, then it doesn't really matter who's backing it, does it?
I think that's the key, isn't it? But the problem is that a lot of big companies like that don't want to have real open standards because then they'd have to compete on how they operate and the features they have and things like that, and not necessarily like where that goes.
I tell you what, it's not easy. It's not easy competing against people who've taken all the code that you open sourced and then selling it for money.
Well, we saw with Red Hat, didn't we, them effectively closing down the source code and making it really difficult for the likes of CentOS. Obviously, they owned CentOS at that point, but, you know, Alma and Rocket, whatever, they made it difficult for them to operate. So just being open source isn't necessarily the kind of protection that you might think it would be.
No, but I think if you go in and have, you know, you're open to the idea what your license is, like, obviously, Red Hat were very open to the idea what that license was, but I think there was a bit of business ease went on in the background with them. The likes of IBM, who, yeah, I don't know if I view IBM as a force for good or a force for what. I'm not sure, but, you know, if you're going in there with companies and you are actually competing on things and you do it realistically, I think it's fine to compete in that way. It's a bit crap if someone literally does take your product and change the color to blue and everybody goes, oh, it's so much better and more professional looking. You're like, what? Yeah,
I think Red Hat got given a lot of slack because they contributed so much stuff to upstream open source projects, right? So even though in many ways they were stretching the license to the absolute maximum limit of what was reasonable, right, of trying to prevent people from just repackaging their thing. But the vast majority of the work they did was contributed to upstream open source projects that meant it was included in completely different Linux distros and whatever. So, you know, they did an awful lot of good, even though they might have some questions about the way they use the license.
Well, look at LVFS and FWAP-D. They pay for that, don't they? They pay Hughes' salary to work on it. And he's, you know, like we talked about him getting the sponsorship from the big companies to try and make it a bit more independent and a bit more sustainable. But ultimately, that's all been Red Hat and IBM's doing.
I think that would be a cool thing to see going forward, though, would be some of those key infrastructure bits. Like, we don't all have to have our own FWAP-D. So that should go into a central sort of kitty of projects, a bit like the open printing stuff with Till as well. You know, not every distro has to have, oh, we're king of the printers and we're king of the firmware. Oh, well, you can't have both together, so tough shit for you. It's like, no, those type of key infrastructure bits should kind of merge into a slow thing like this, where maybe there could be a fund, even if it is this European fund that's doing it, from our perspective, where it's taken away from just the distro doing that. The distro can add its own thing, sure, but basic running of hardware, I think, shouldn't be it.
Yeah, and I think distros should be contributing into that kind of thing. Like, for a long time, Red Hat was basically this, right? Like, Red Hat was doing that job for the entire ecosystem. And that seemed a bit unfair, but they also had plenty of money, so it was kind of okay. But really, it's not sustainable, is it?
Well, they seem to still have plenty of money now. I think they did all right.
Indeed. Can someone please explain whether Cloudflare blackmailed Canonical? This is a piece on flyingpenguin.com. And I saw this before you, Phelim, and I was just waiting for you to put it into our spreadsheet. So the bottom line is the people who attacked Canonical's infrastructure almost certainly, according to this, used Cloudflare to do it, or at least companies who were hosted with Cloudflare to do it, probably on their free tiers, and then fucked up Canonical's infrastructure, and then Canonical paid Cloudflare to make it go away.
Allegedly. I think we should have to put in a lot of allegedlys there.
According to this piece. Not according to us, but according to what this piece says.
According to this piece, yes.
Well, so the way I read this piece, the website of the piece of software that the bad guys used to attack Canonical was hosted on Cloudflare, like pretty much all websites, right? And I think the conspiracy coming out of that is that Cloudflare are like allowing attackers to use their stuff to attack people so that then those people have to pay them for protection. It feels a bit far-fetched to me. Like almost all websites have Cloudflare in front of them, and Cloudflare have not got round to getting rid of this particular bad actor, or maybe they like free speech extremists and think they should stick around. And also people have to pay Cloudflare to be protected from huge denial of service attacks. That's bad. It's bad that Cloudflare like own the entire internet, but I just don't get this as a conspiracy.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I think, but explained much more articulately. Thank you, Andy. Yes. Phelim, I know you're all in on, oh yeah, this is a fucking conspiracy, but it's not.
Jeez, I didn't even say that at all. Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Don't bring don't bring evil bad guys who are definitely not Cloudflare down on me, for God's sake. But it does feel a bit like body armor made by Smith & Wesson. Do you not think so?
Well, yeah. And I think I said last time we talked about this, I hate Cloudflare. And I wish it was not the case. I mean, I said and others, and I didn't mention others, but perhaps Akamai they could have used. And I think there were even other ones. But like the reality of the modern internet is that you get to a certain size and you need to have DDoS protection. And yeah, the same company that offers DDoS protection has a free tier that people abuse, and they are not very good at moderating that, not very good at kicking people off that, seemingly.
Yeah, and the problem is that they're massive, right? It's the same problem as other massive companies. They have too many interests, some of which are conflicting.
Yeah.
One problem I say with this is the fact that both Cloudflare and Akamai are American, and it's a huge corporation. So again, we have a huge corporation in charge of the internet and two players, maybe three.
Yeah, that's not a good situation, obviously.
Yeah, and it's in a jurisdiction where they could be forced to do all kinds of snooping on you, or even attacking you maybe, and they wouldn't be allowed to reveal what they've been told to do.
Yeah. Not good.
No. But as for this conspiracy theory, like, no, I'm not having it. This is not some sinister plan from Cloudflare. It's just them being shit at kicking people off when they should.
Or possibly genuinely having a policy of not kicking people off for that kind of behaviour, but that would seem a bit mad to me.
It would also seem possibly illegal. People using tools for illegal purposes, being hosted, attacking customers of a company who are using it to defend them. It seems legally like their lawyers should step in and go, yeah, we need to tighten this up.
But they just don't care, do they?
Well, they won't care until something legal happens, I think.
But how far do you go with holding people responsible for what they allow to exist on their network, right? Because that's a difficult path to go down. If someone like Cloudflare has to censor like every website that is fronted by it, that's a scary amount of power they suddenly have.
But I think that's why they shouldn't have the power. Like, if they really want to have that open web that they trust so much, then they shouldn't exist. It should be lots of small connections everywhere. Absolutely.
But yeah, we're just not there right now, and I don't know how to get there.
But also, everybody patch your fucking systems and stop becoming a fucking drone in this army, for fuck's sake.
Well, yeah, I mean, we need regulations on Internet of Shit, don't we?
Yeah.
To stop that becoming part of the botnet.
Or just not existing.
Come on. Some people want to talk to their phone and have their lights come on.
Weirdos. The lot of them.
I'm inclined to agree.
Well, we've got an Internet of Things hating panel in today as well.
I think we've just got the miserable bastards line up.
Hate all the things.
I love some things, just not any of the things that are happening right now.
Yeah, if it's not you sitting in a cozy room, writing Rust by hand.
Then I hate it.
Yeah. We talked about copy fail, which was a 0 day for the Linux kernel that allowed privilege escalation effectively. So root when you shouldn't have it. And now there's another one called dirty frag. And hang on. Now there's another one, fragnesia.
But wait, there's more.
Yeah. This is just getting out of hand.
The big question that came into my head was, why are these things not being handled properly, like vulnerabilities have been for quite a while now, where there's an established system where you reveal it secretly, you get your credit at the time, and meanwhile people are able to patch it and release those fixes before they're wild on the internet. And the answer appears to be that people are using these new tools, which means that lots of people find the same bug at the same time. So there's a kind of a race to get the credit or something. I don't really understand why that means people can't follow proper procedure.
I think you're onto something there, that a lot of people are finding it at the same time, aren't they? Because these are predictable things to find.
Yeah, and I think all of those bugs that we had were basically take out those 3 kernel modules and you're fine. And unsurprisingly, they were all based around the same checking that was going on. And it's really frustrating, but I guess once we get through this period of the easy stuff, then, realistically, they're going to be stumped by actually having to do some work the next time. So at least we're kind of safe again from lazy bug finders.
Yeah, I get a bit frustrated about the way this is covered sometimes, right? Because people are talking about it in terms of fear. Like, there's new tools that mean that we can find new bugs, and therefore, the bad guys are going to be able to cut through our security like butter. But the reality of the situation is we're getting safer every time these things get found. It means a bad guy can't use it anymore because it's been fixed. And I don't see the fear narrative in this at all.
Well, the fear comes from the speed at which these vulnerabilities are being found and irresponsibly disclosed.
Yeah, that's the harm. It's the irresponsible disclosure.
Well, yeah, but if people are using these same tools and find the same vulnerabilities at the same time, then that effectively makes responsible disclosure very difficult. And that is the danger here, isn't it?
I mean, there's a danger in this window where a load of bugs are being found that hadn't been found before. But in a year or in 5 years, we're just going to be safer. It's going to be, those bugs are all going to be fixed.
Really, though? Something as complicated as the Linux kernel, for example, you really think that they're going to find it all in the next few months, effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that these new tools are good at is finding stuff like this, and so they're going to find them.
This example is really what that thing that we're not going to talk about is actually only useful for, not to write the code, but to check for various things, and we can make that tech available to anybody who wants to use it, so that as the devs develop the stuff, they can keep running it in the background like a CI job, and that's all it should do. It should never say, here's how you fix it, because it won't do that right, but it should say, this looks like you've got a buffer overflow here or whatever. And as we build test upon test, fuzzers that we still have and things like that, it only gets better that way, I think.
And by the way, if we threw as much compute at the fuzzers that we already had rather than the new tools, we'd find a lot more bugs.
Yep.
So the advice was to mitigate this before we've got proper fixes is to disable certain kernel modules. Now, I did that on a lot of systems and it was fine. And so that begs 2 questions. Why the fuck do we have those modules in the first place if we don't need them? And secondly, well, maybe we do need them and shit's going to start breaking if we keep doing this. Because there's this kill switch has been proposed by the Linux kernel maintainers. And surely that can't be the solution.
No, and I think they've even pointed out in that there was some really bad ideas as to how you could sort of almost game that system to be a disaster as well. I mean, I think we were lucky in this case that the modules involved were not that important. Maybe they were using a few edge cases, a bit like OpenSSL. It has so many bloody types of encryption and stuff that the ones that people actually use is probably a small subset.
Well, it's like we saw with sudo, isn't it? There was that sudo with chroot, like a feature that got exploited that shouldn't have been there in the first place.
It was there for a reason at some point, but maybe, questionably being left in there.
It feels like an argument for reducing complexity to me.
It certainly feels like, features just increase attack surface. And it's worth pointing out that the reason why this is so bad in Linux is because Linux is a monolithic kernel. So everything, if you can get into any bit of the Linux kernel, you can get a huge amount of power. Whereas in most ordinary pieces of software, there's a limit on that.
So you're saying we should use GNU Herd. Gotcha.
So there are people saying maybe it's time to start using a microkernel to avoid this kind of problem. But maybe there is a thing where, like Linux right now on most of our distros comes with a ton of modules enabled and loaded into memory. Maybe we need to start running with a much smaller set of modules. I don't really know that much about how the kernel works, but that's my uneducated thought.
Well, something has got to change, and I hope you're right, Andy, that this is relatively short term, but we need a fix short term for this.
Maybe that kill switch is going to work. Like it's a fairly harsh mechanism, but if you know that bugs are going to be found and revealed without a proper disclosure, maybe turning off parts of your code is a way to fight against it.
Be honest, Joe, how did you find applying the fix?
Well, you linked me to documentation of how to do it, and I just blindly copy-pasted the fucking commands. I have no idea what I actually did, and it's only because you were there checking it that I trusted it.
Okay, but what happened later on that day was Canonical pushed out effectively what we did manually, right? They said, right, well, we've got to switch those 3 kernel modules off right now because we don't have a fix for it yet. And then they built that thing, and then about a day later, that kernel module came out with a fix in it. So I think we have that kill switch there. I think there's a way for distros to push out the module switch off and allow people to do it that way. I don't know whether we should build in some special tool to do it. I think we probably have it. The only problem is if it gets to a module that we need that we can't turn off, you've got to have that patch properly then. Like, you know, the TCP stack gets shafted and then you're like, well, I can sit here and play solitaire on my own, but that's about it.
It is a worry. Like, are people going to find stuff in the absolute core kernel? But I think if they were going to find it in a really obvious way, then they would have found it already, right? And where they found it was in this obscure corner.
Fair, I would think, yeah.
From what you've explained there, Phelim, it makes sense that maybe we don't need the kill switch in the kernel itself, because by using a distro, you are giving the entity that controls that distro root on your system, effectively.
Yeah.
And you are trusting them to do shit like this, turn off the modules that you don't need that are vulnerable, and then turn them back on again once it's fixed.
Yeah, so long as a day later is quick enough, yeah.
The problem is, I think that software updates have been shat on from a great height, I think is the only technical term I can bring from it, by the likes of Microsoft. And it has made people hesitant to apply updates. Now, lots of us, that's not a big deal.
Not in the Linux world, I don't think. I don't think we've got that same culture.
No, but if you are giving out a machine to normals, they may often go, I don't need to apply that update. And like, say, they're running the likes of SteamOS or something like that. Imagine that became a bit more popular and actually people started to use it as desktop, say. You have to hope that they get on the good side of updates are not a bad thing. Apply them all now. Because, you know, even with phones, people don't apply them. You know, unless you're forced to do it. And I'm not advocating for forced updates, but
I am. Unattended upgrades, man. That's on by default in Ubuntu, and that's a good thing.
I think on a desktop it can be okay up until Wayland breaks, and then you have to try and walk somebody through, right, Control-Shift F3. Now, this is going to take you into a terminal on the virtual space. They're like, oh my God, my screen went black. It's like, yeah, it'll be fine. Trust me, it'll be fine. And like, it just seems like a lot of gobbledygook.
If you're going to do automated upgrades, you can't break things.
Yeah, that's the real danger. And Canonical did break X once. It was a long time ago, but it did happen.
And none of us have got over it.
No.
But we're not talking about the desktop really here. I mean, obviously, patch your desktop as well, but these copy fail and dirty frag style vulnerabilities are not really a huge problem on the desktop.
Yeah, this time. But what I'm thinking is that the next time it could be, you know, something the USB stack or God knows. Like, you know, I think we're going to get to the point where we have to think about it that normal users are going to have to do something, you know, and whether that is just apply all the updates as soon as they come in and have a almost like the Canonical hotfix patch to kernel, you know, that is available to people for free. Maybe they need to push that more to people who are normal users and just not tell them about it and just enable it on all the machines.
No, what we need to do is have my alias be standard in all distros.
Your alias needs to go away. That is Russian roulette you are playing with that thing.
What? Just because I update everything and do auto remove as well, and one time that pulled the whole XFCE desktop out of my wife's laptop.
Yeah.
And I had to reinstall XFCE.
Who's not applying updates from now? Your wife is not applying them from now on because she knows.
No, she still does. She still runs up every time, but I took out the auto remove bit. And so last time I looked at a machine, there was like 15 old kernels that I had to get rid of.
And the boot partition's about to fill up and then it won't boot anymore.
I can't believe that you've made it a 2-character command as well. 2 characters of death. I mean, that is unreal.
No, 2 characters of security and awesomeness.
I do think maybe distros need to be faster in how they respond to this. If this stuff is going to be happening regularly, where distros know that they have an unpatched 0-day on their millions of users' machines, maybe they need to get some kind of mitigation out in an hour rather than in 24 hours.
I don't know how realistic that is, even with a global team.
I think John Seeger just never needs to sleep ever again. Problem solved.
I mean, Andy, you as a developer are always banging on about testing.
Mm-hmm.
And testing is not just the kind of tests you do. That includes QA and stuff. You have to be fully confident that the fix that you've applied doesn't just break a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's a pretty big ask, but like, it's what people need, right? If it's going to continue, like, hopefully it won't. But if there are going to be 0 days out there regularly, then you can't afford to wait 24 hours. That's plenty of time for your stuff to get pwned.
Right, well, we better get out of here then. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us. It's been great having you.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you'll stick around for the next episode.
I'll see if I can make it.
We'll be back next week. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelim.
And I've been Andy.
See you later.